Summary of the Consolation of Philosophy by Boethius. The Consolation of Philosophy is written in parts that switch between prose and poetry. It starts with Boethius talking about how he wrote the book in 524, when he was in jail for a crime he didn't commit and was waiting to be executed. He has spent his whole life working in the top levels of government in Rome. He is very unhappy about the bad luck that has put him in the situation he is in now. Boethius asks the Greek gods of art and creativity, the Muses, to help him write poetry that shows how sad he is. But all of a sudden, an awe-inspiring woman walks in and kicks the Muses out of his room. She wears a beautiful but ignored dress that has been torn by the hands of marauders and has the Greek letters pi and theta woven into the hemline. She tells Boethius that she is philosophy and that he used to be a good student of hers, but that he has forgotten the knowledge and happiness he learned from her. Boethius, who is crying, sings that philosophy's return to his life is like the sun coming out after a storm. Philosophy says that the wise have always been attacked by the forces of evil for their beliefs, and that the wicked and unprincipled men who run Rome are doing the same thing to Boethius, who is honest and good. Philosophy tells Boethius that the truth is the cure for his pain and that she will help him feel better. At the end of Book I, Boethius and Philosophy say briefly that God the Creator watches over the world, which includes humans, who are rational and mortal animals with a place in God's plan. This means that Boethius's bad luck is not just a coincidence. Philosophy and Boethius talk about fortune in Book II. They say that fortune is a cruel goddess who turns a wheel of chance that sends people randomly up to success or down to failure. Since luck is random, Boethius shouldn't take his condemnation and death sentence personally. Change is inevitable, and wealth, honors, and the like have nothing to do with people's pleasure. Boethius still has all the things that are most important to him. His family and friends still support him, and he has lived a well-known, respected, and honorable life. Even though he has outstanding blessings, his view is skewed because he has never experienced adversity before now. Philosophy says that real happiness comes from within, and she briefly explains why the human soul, or mind, is immortal, while the body is temporary, so the ability to think is our greatest gift. When compared to the heights that the mind alone can reach, collecting inanimate things, trying to get political power, and looking for fame are puny and insubstantial pursuits. So fortune and the material things she brings have nothing to do with happiness itself. They are neither good nor bad in and of themselves, they are only useful for reminding people how fragile happiness is. In Book III, Boethius and Lady Philosophy go into more detail about what makes people happy. In the end, they come to the conclusion that a person's relationship with God is the key to real happiness. First, philosophy says that everyone wants to be happy and that happiness leaves nothing more to be desired because it contains in itself all that is good. People try to be happy by getting wealth, position, power, fame, and pleasure, but these things don't actually make people happy. People's inner worries are not solved by money. Instead, money makes people dependent and greedier than they were before. Bad politicians discredit the offices they hold by letting their worst desires become the law. People with a lot of power start to worry that they might lose it, which is more of a curse than a gift. Most of the time, fame is built on false opinions and goes to the most shameful people, not the best ones. And lastly, looking for pleasure is a low, animalistic thing to do that leads to great illness and unbearable pain. People who try to reach these 5 goals are, in fact, looking for false happiness. Philosophy tells Boethius that self-sufficiency is necessary for true happiness. A person who is fully self-sufficient would have wealth, position, power, fame, and pleasure, but only as a whole. The happy person wouldn't go after these things separately. After all, going after one of them can throw people off balance and make them give up on the others. How do you get to this true happiness that everyone shares? Plato said that God is the supreme good in the world, and that the sum of absolute sufficiency, power, glory, reverence, and happiness is the same as the supreme good. So, since God is all of these things, He is perfect happiness. In turn, people can find happiness through the possession of divinity, or by becoming one with God. Philosophy says in a song that people should find refuge in God's shining light and try to learn the truth about Him. God regulates all things in the world, so they all work in harmony and accord with Him. People want happiness, goodness, and to be one with God because they want to do their part in God's plan for the world. Boethius is very happy with philosophy's view of the world. This is why, despite his bad luck, he can still be blessed and happy. But in Book 4, Boethius asks a question about God. If He really is all-knowing, all-powerful, and completely good, why is there evil in the world? After all, Boethius is sad because bad people have taken over Rome while good people like him are locked up. Philosophy starts her answer by saying that evil is the same as weakness because it goes against God and is not normal. In fact, evil people have no power. They are weak rather than strong, because if they were strong, like God, they would do what is good, like God. People aren't bad because God made them that way. Instead, they're bad because they're not as powerful as God, so they sometimes do bad things. In short, evil is not a real thing that exists in the world. Instead, it is the sum of the mistakes people make when they try to find goodness and happiness in the wrong ways. So, philosophy says evil is nothing, and people who do bad things are less than human. In fact, the bad are less happy when they are free to get what they want. But when the bad people are punished, God puts them on the path to right, which makes them happier and better. But Boethius asks philosophy why God lets people make mistakes in the first place and why He lets this cause chaos that hurts good people. Philosophy responds by making a difference between providence, which is God's plan or blueprint for the world, and fate, which is how that plan plays out in time. People can only see the world through the lens of time, so they forget that bad things that happen in fate can be part of God's good providence. God can, for example, teach the good self-discovery through hardship or reward the bad so they learn to stop being bad because they don't want to lose their happiness. When people see others doing bad things, they can decide to be different from those they hate and become good, so God can cancel out evil with evil, just as two negatives cancel each other out. So, everything God does to people is either to reward or correct the good or to punish or teach the bad. So, philosophy comes to the conclusion that all good fortune is certainly good. Boethius asks another question about God in Book V. If God is in charge of everything and knows what people will do before they do it, do people really have free will? Philosophy shows that God's knowing what's going to happen would only stop people from having free will if He made those things happen. But in fact, philosophy says, God can know about things that will happen without making them happen or making it necessary for them to happen. This is because God is smarter than people and knows more than they do. He can have divine intelligence, but people can only use their reason, imagination, and senses. God knows what people will choose before they make that choice. This is because He is more powerful than people. But how can God know what will happen if He doesn't control it? Philosophy says that God is eternal, which means He doesn't depend on time. People see the past, the present, and the future, but God sees everything as if it were happening right now. So, He can see what people do without deciding what they will do, and He doesn't have to guess what they will do because they are conditionally important. This means that if someone is walking, they must be walking just because they are walking and not because they were made to walk against their will. So, God is like an eye that is present to watch the whole universe at the same time. Philosophy tells Boethius that since God is a judge who sees everything, he should pray to God, avoid vice, cultivate virtue, and be good. This is because God is a judge who sees everything.
About the author. Between 475 and 477, Boethius was born into a wealthy Christian family in Rome. Even though the Roman Empire fell around the same time, in 476, his family's wealth and the way Roman society worked didn't change much, and Boethius had many opportunities from the time he was a kid. He then worked as an official for the rest of his life for the Ostrogoth king Theodoric, who was in charge of a smaller version of the old empire. Boethius became a senator when he was 25 and a consul, one of the two leaders of the Senate, when he was 33. Still, Boethius probably spent most of his time reading and translating philosophy. He made it his personal goal to translate all of Aristotle's and Plato's works from Greek to Latin. He also tried to show that their schools of thought fit together in every way. But a series of political problems cut his life short in a sad way. When Albinus, one of Boethius's co-workers, was accused of treason, Boethius defended him and was then accused of the same crime. After that, he was caught and killed. Boethius was arrested in 523 and put to death in 524. In the year between, he wrote the Consolation of Philosophy, which is still his best-known work. But Boethius is probably more important for making ancient Greek philosophy famous in Rome and the early Middle Ages and translating it into Latin.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.